It should be an honest overview of the country. I know you will be honest.
Because there is a misconception that yes, you can bring in money, but you can't take your money back.
And not the IIA, but OIA, Outwards Investment Account.
The kind of inflation driven by the so-called money printing will not repeat, because
something that all foreign investors are concerned about is the currency risk.
If it is a kind of a promising startup, sometimes collateral-free lending also there.
So unfortunately, Sri Lankans don't have this opportunity, or am I wrong about it?
For the time being, yes, there is a question mark on an individual invest here in Sri Lanka.
Are Sri Lankans then investing in things like Bitcoin? I'm not an advocate of Bitcoin at all.
We do not facilitate the digital currency, crypto, and such investments.
So why would someone still consider keeping money on an FD account?
A deposit run didn't happen. The basic reason for that is the banks in Sri Lanka is well regulated by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka based on the Basel III requirement.
At any moment, your assets could be seized. You could get into a lot of legal trouble.
Any investor to his investment portfolio, having some amount of Sri Lankan exposure is important.
Welcome to Investigate. Yet again, we have a special episode with one of the leading banks in Sri Lanka and also the largest financial conglomerate, NDB Bank. And today we have with us Mr. Nilendra Vitanage, who is a senior manager and one of the zonal managers of NDB Bank. So he has a lot of experience in the banking field and also in the financial sector. So we would be able to learn a lot from him. So Mr. Nilendra, welcome to Investigate. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Lahiru, and thank you for having me here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, my pleasure. So let's get to business. Tell me why and also how a non-resident Sri Lankan or a foreign investor invest in any type of asset in general to start with in Sri Lanka?
Lahiru, it's like this now. A person is investing particularly for retirement. And last few years, if you can remember, from 2018 to 2022, we all went through a kind of a hard time. But thereafter, if you remember, if you compare with some more parallel economies, Sri Lanka has bounced back really well. If you take all the parameters except for few, all others are positive. The sovereign credit rating is now gradually improving. It is now CCC plus, and also Sri Lanka has a very strong and vibrant banking sector that is holding on the entire economy in a kind of a very well regulated manner. So when you take all these with the growth projections which are there, approximately 5% expected. So with all are there, it's very important to say that if you take the peer economies, Sri Lanka is an economy where you can invest in as an emerging market. And on the other side, if you take a kind of the domestic as well as geopolitical angle, domestically, Sri Lanka's, if you take inflation is curtailed, interest rates are mostly in single digits, and the foreign exchange rate, to a greater degree, it is now stable. So with a positive outlook, and also Sri Lanka always take a kind of neutral stance in most of the geopolitical matters. So that also gives a kind of geopolitical stability also for an investor who is seeking for a kind of a very kind of risk-averse investment, and also particularly a stable investment. So Sri Lanka offers all this, and with the IMF program running in up to 2028, we can expect stability. And with the recent government budget which came in, we predict with the stability, we predict the growth as well. So that's the main reason, Lairu. Any investor to his investment portfolio, having some amount of Sri Lankan exposure is important, be it, let's say, a resident individual or a non-resident individual. Having an exposure here is important because of that.
What I've also seen, Mr. Nilendra, is that many non-residents, sometimes, or even foreigners, I've heard that they want to use informal channels to bring in funds to the country because they fear the formal system might overburden them with regulations, with procedures. It will cost them more. At the end of the day, they'll be taxed more some other way. We have heard of words like undial and this and that, but it is not a good long-term strategy. As an investor myself, I know that because at any moment your assets could be seized. You could get into a lot of legal trouble for using informal channels. So, can you tell us, is it this cumbersome? Is it so burdensome to bring funds to Sri Lanka using the formal banking channels? Explain us a little bit about this.
Yes, Lairu, that's a kind of very good question because now during the crisis time and thereafter even, we have seen some people resorting to informal ways of, as you said, the Undial and Hawala and things like that, this, kind of mechanisms. The problem is, as you said, there is a kind of a matter of, say, regulatory actions, embargoes, as well as sometimes even you may be financing a kind of a global terrorism network. So it's better that if you refrain from sending money or transacting through informal channels, then whereas the formal channels, Lairu, there are lots of ways and means where you can bring in your money to Sri Lanka and also taking out money, because there is a misconception that yes, you can bring in money, but you can't take your money back, and also the tax implications as well. So to tell you, there are ways and means. Number one, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the banking sector of Sri Lanka has set up one specific investment tool. This is totally built for the investment facilitation. That is Inward Investment Account, IIIA. IIIA will allow you this particular account, which is not only an account, will allow you to bring in your money in designated foreign currencies. You can bring in your money in USD, US dollars, Euro, GBP. On those well accepted foreign currencies, you can bring in your money, keep your money, and use your money for your investment purpose in foreign exchange, foreign currency, and take back your money as well. So that is the main method of bringing in your money into Sri Lanka, use it for investments, and then take it out. So when you use this IIA account, that will be well regulated by the banking sector as well as the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, and definitely you will be under the supervision of the banks, as well as you will not face any of the repercussions that we have discussed here. The repercussions such as, let's say, kind of foreign exchange embargoes, those issues will not be there. And also, in any given point of time, let's say for your investment, say if you are investing in a hotel down south, or maybe a kind of another investment somewhere, you need to have a bank funding. Maybe whatever the money you're bringing in is not enough. You need to get a bank funding for your investment. So at that time, definitely the bank can identify how you channeled your money, because then bank should not need to ask you all sorts of documentary proof. That proof is there. So that IIA account itself as an investment facilitation mechanism can be a reflection of your transactions, so that the bank on a subsequent time when you are needing a bank loan facility, the bank can go through that account, the transactions and all, bank can identify and fund you based on that transactions that you have made. If you channeled your funds through informal sources, the bank will find it extremely difficult in order to manage, in order to get some proofs, get some evidence of your transactions. So that will put your investments, sometimes your investment timelines and horizons go far away from its projected timelines. So the inward investment account, IIA, will definitely help you out in bringing in money. So that facility is available not only in NDB, in all the major banks in Sri Lanka. And also, Lairu, just to tell you, the banking sector in Sri Lanka is well established. I have to put this point into our listeners, into our viewers, because now, if you can remember, during some of the major crises happened in around the globe, say Lebanon, say Argentina, those were followed by a kind of a banking crisis as well. If you take Afghanistan, Lebanon, and all these places, the economic crisis followed by a banking crisis. But in Sri Lanka, it had not happened, right? Even though so much of hardships we have faced, the banking crisis or a bank run or a deposit run didn't happen. The basic reason for that is the banks in Sri Lanka is well regulated by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, based on the Basel III requirements, which is internationally accepted regulatory requirement. So therefore, even during the middle of that very severe, harsh crisis, the sector was stabilized. Sector was able to absorb all this pressure. The liquidity was there. There was an issue with the dollar liquidity, but they say rupee liquidity, the liquidity was there. The banking sector was stable and they were able to fund the economy to rise up. So the remarkable recovery of Sri Lanka was partly due to the effective monitoring of the banks of the country. So therefore, you can count on, you can trust the banking sector in Sri Lanka. If that kind of a hardship has been absorbed by the banking sector, definitely you don't have to worry about bringing in money through the banking sector. So my request, my advice to all of the kind of people who are looking at it, so explore your investment opportunities through the banking sector, because that will give you further benefits when it comes to you going to fund your projects in a subsequent time through borrowings, through those kind of acts as well, right?
Yes, that's a very pertinent observation you made, because Sri Lanka faced the most severe financial crisis in its history. And unlike in other countries, not only the countries from emerging markets you discussed, but also countries like the United States of America itself, like when it had its severe financial crisis in 2008, most of the major banks collapsed and the government had to bail them out. And
Yes.
Sri Lanka, the private banking sector, especially because of, I think, strong policies of and regulatory frameworks established by the central bank, and the talent of and the professionalism of the bankers in Sri Lanka has managed to uh, absorb and even outperform like many banks around the region. And this is something incredible and something noteworthy for investors who are considering Sri Lanka. And you talked about the IIA. Now, the IIA allows you to bring money and store money in a foreign currency. Is that right? Yes, right. So you can, let me,
Yes. In foreign currency form, you can keep your money.
and you can also withdraw the money in the same foreign currency. Otherwise,
Yes,
repatriate
yes,
the
that
money.
benefit is there. So
Okay.
yes, repatriate your money also. So it's a kind, not only, as I told you, it's not only an account, but it's a kind of an investment vehicle which you can use
Okay.
for your investment.
All right. Incredible. So I have also heard of this account called the NRSL account. So what is this savings accounts, and can you brief us a little bit about that for our non-resident listeners?
So if you are Lairu, if you are a person who is earning a salary, non-resident person who is earning a salary, and if you want to invest in Sri Lanka and keep your money in Sri Lankan banking sector in foreign currency as a non-resident, so that particular account is also available to you, where you can keep your money there as a non-resident. So non-resident savings accounts are there, which you can keep your money, and through that. But for your investments, Lahiru, more than the NRSL, it's the IIA that will help you out in facilitating, because IIA is itself is a kind of a mechanism which will help us. Say the Sri Lanka government bonds, the like treasury bills and treasury bonds, be it let's say the Colombo Stock Exchange, if you are investing, or maybe if you are investing in unit trust, many unit trust companies are there, and unit trusts are very popular, as well as many other investments. Say if you are bringing in money for a BOI project or whatever, still IIA is the place. But if you are a person who is, let's say, a salaried employee who is willing to bring in your money here and keep your money in a deposit or whatever, the non-resident savings accounts are also there for you to invest. But if you are an investor, from a perspective of the investment, Lairu, IIA can enable you to a whole sorts of kind of a portfolio of investments. The investment facilitation can be done through IIA.
Okay, yes. So IIA is the best option you have if you are planning to invest in Sri Lanka. So now you mentioned about bank loans. This is something that is very interesting for anyone who wants to start a business or wants some leverage to fund their investments. But I have heard that foreigners
Yes.
are not permitted or given bank loans in Sri Lanka. Is this correct?
Lairu, now if you are investing in Sri Lanka for a project or something like that, so better you start up a company here. You start a company, and then maybe you can get local ownership as well. And so for that you need to create. You can get the advice from your tax advisor, from your investment advisor. So create a kind of a vehicle for your investment. Maybe have local directors, have local shareholding, and through that you can obtain a kind of a banking facility for that particular investment as well. So yes,
Mhm.
the non-resident individuals, you may not be able to get the loan itself, but subsequently if you are going to invest in the project, so have your local appropriate shareholding, appropriate directorships, and then you can fund your project through that as well.
Okay, so that means essentially as an individual or a foreign individual or a non-resident individual, you won't be able to obtain a loan. But if you do set up a legal entity that is considered as Sri
Yes.
Lankan, as a Sri Lankan legal entity, through that you can of course apply and get funding through the banks. Okay, that is
And Lairu,
great.
if you are
Please go ahead.
Yes, if you are a person investing in certain specified sectors, I'm just telling you how our bank loans are also available. Now, just to give you some current context with regard to the loans which are
Mhm.
there. Now, the rates have also come down to a kind of a very local currency rates, LKR rates, into a very lower trajectory. Some rates are going at, say, 11%, 11.5. Yes, it's higher than the foreign countries, but given the kind of recent history of Sri Lanka's interest rates, the lending interest rates in local currency has come down drastically. And for many projects, you are eligible for credit lines. If you are investing in, if you are a person who is investing in a kind of manufacturing or maybe exports, there are whole sorts of credit lines are available, which are like pre-energizer credit scheme is there at 7% interest rate. If you are investing in environmental sustainability projects, there is e-friends loan scheme is there, environmental like waste water, waste management, some amount of solar kind of projects, not personal solar, but say for a manufacturing company, if you are putting up solars and all, 6.5 e-friends loan schemes are also there, interest rate. And if you take some promising startups, if it is some people wanted to start up IT BPO sector. So if it is a kind of a promising startup, sometimes collateral-free lending also there for locally at National Credit Guarantee Institute, kind of a hindrance that was there, that is now being removed based on the National Credit Guarantee Institute Limited, NCGIL. Collateral free lending is also provided for local establishments under our these mechanisms. So lots of opportunities are available, Lahiru, in terms of if you are if anyone is investing here in Sri Lanka, but the kind of you have to develop your correct model of investment, your correct model of I would say the setup, your special purpose vehicles, those correct setup you have to make, and then your business can obtain those kind of benefits as well.
Okay, so as Mr. Nilendra explained, there are various loan schemes available for various enterprises, sometimes even collateral free, which is something incredible if you are someone who wants to start something anew, who has the brilliant idea, brilliant proposal. And if you trust in your project, that's a good way to start your business, because we all know that when we go to the bank and when we want to get something, they ask for collateral. And many people do not have collateral, therefore, they basically give up their project entirely, or they go to the informal sector to obtain higher, like loans at a very high interest rates from loan sharks, and they get into financial trouble. And it's very encouraging for MDBs to hear that there are collateral free loan schemes for entrepreneurs, essentially. Okay, and I might put you into trouble with this question. Uh, uh, Sri Lanka is typically known as a saver consumer economy, right? Most of the Asians are like that. Most of the Asian uh, have been trained to save or to consume, but they haven't been taught or through the school system or whatever, through our upbringing, to invest. Now, when it comes to savings, you have FD accounts. The banks offer FD accounts at good rates, maybe sometimes 6%, 7%, even 9%, depend on the duration of your commitment to keep your funds in the bank. Now, the part that will get you into trouble is because the stock exchange has been growing at 14% CAGR per year, right? And there are other investment vehicles or investment options, modalities that might get you more returns than from a FD account. So why would someone still consider keeping money on an FD account?
Yes, there is a point what you say at a time when the stock market is rapidly increasing at a kind of a higher growth rate. It all goes to the basic rule of investing. Yeah, if you are an investor, you all know they say don't put your all eggs in one basket, right? Where stock market, there is a kind of a maximum limit it will go in the short term and the medium term, and at that time there can be saturations as well, and it is exposed to the geopolitical risks. Those are there, and on the other side you need to have an investment source which will give you a stable return. So we don't recommend you putting all your money in the fixed deposits, but part of your money to be landed on the fixed deposits and the bank deposits will give you that cushion, will give you that safety. That can be, you can decide based on your investment journey how much amount of money you have to keep. But given the past track record of the banks of Sri Lanka, it's better you keep part of your money in fixed deposits as well, because definitely stock market will not give you this amount of return in the long run, but short run, yes, it is projected to grow. But it's that you need to have the kind of the basic protection for your money, some amount of money in liquid form, so that will give you that additional comfort in terms of your investment. So based on your investment appetite, you may keep a part of your money in fixed deposits as well. Number one, the reasons, there is a kind of a marginal deposit deposit insurance scheme as well for the regulated banks in Sri Lanka. And Sri Lankan banks, except for one or two banks previously, all other banks have repaid their deposits even during the crisis time. So you can count on that. So manage your investment portfolio based on your investment appetite as well.
Okay, so that seems to be a good case to keep your some of your savings or funds in a fixed deposit account. Especially for, I think it's important for Sri Lankans living in Sri Lanka, because whenever you want to open a fixed deposit account, as far as my knowledge goes, you have to convert dollars or your foreign currency into local currency, right? And with that comes a little bit of a risk, which is something that all foreign investors are concerned about, is the currency risk. For example, if the rupee starts to depreciate, that will wipe out whatever gains that you accumulated use with your fixed deposit interest rate. And also, Sri Lanka has been facing inflation issues, severe inflation issues, especially in 2020 and 21, which went up to 70%, which erodes purchasing power of the Sri Lankan rupee. And of course, for import exporters, that's a kind of something as an advantage. But when it comes to people who are consuming within the country or planning to one day take convert the rupees and take it back into their own countries in a foreign currency, this poses a significant risk. Do you have any inputs on this? How can we circumvent this? Has the situation changed now?
Uh, Anyway, Lahru, the currency exchange, foreign exchange risk will be there. But if you are an importer or exporter, to mitigate that risk for the transactional perspective, Lahru, we are granting them forward foreign exchange forward bookings as well. So that will, to a certain degree, they will be covered through that. But yes, to a kind of if you are a non-resident individual, yes, there is that foreign exchange risk is there, but the currency ups and downs are there. But the 70% inflation rate which we experienced earlier, uh, again happening or repeating is kind of a remote chance. But the rupee, in terms of the depreciation, these days we saw a gradual depreciation of the LKR due to various reasons. This is the year end. At the year end, you all know most of the imports happen towards the last moment. Seasonal imports are happening, and certain amount of central bank buying the dollars from the market is also there. And gradually now the vehicle import market is also gradually stabilizing. The initial rush for vehicles are now no more. We expect the rupee to back again, kind of have a stable trajectory in the kind of short term. So therefore, we don't predict kind of a rapid exchange rate depreciation, so inflation like what we saw in 2021 and 22. But the risk that you said will definitely be there. Transactional perspective, anyway, the forward bookings are available for the people who are doing the merchandise transactions. On the other side, maybe you diversify your portfolio, maybe say part through LKR deposits, part through dollar deposits. Maybe you can diversify your portfolio as well.
Okay, so I know it's a tough question to answer, especially since Sri Lanka is still recovering from the current economic crisis we faced. And the reports are quite positive, all from the World Bank or either from the IMF or also the Central Bank of Sri Lanka is managing the situation very well. And of course, if, as we have discussed before in this program, if we manage to keep political stability and social stability in place, the economy will actually follow. As the banking sector, right? What steps have you taken? Not only in the private sector banking, but I'm asking you uh, inputs as a specialized banker about the CBSL as well. What policies have they taken to ensure that a currency shock or the rapid inflation like we saw last time will not happen this again. At least the chances will be mitigated as much as possible.
Yes, very good question, Lairu. Now, if you take the inflation, primarily the kind of money printing, which had happened nowadays with the new Central Bank Act. We all know now the Central Bank has given some amount of independence. So therefore, the Central Bank itself will manage the financial stability of the country. So we can expect the kind of inflation driven by the so-called money printing uh, will not repeat, because I would say the policymakers as well as the governments has also learned from the lesson, hopefully. Based on the new Central Bank Act, uh, the central bank itself has some autonomy in making decisions in terms of the money supply, and also therefore that inflation factor is managed to a greater degree. And from the banking sector itself, Lahiru, we all have adequate liquidity buffers from tier 1, tier 2. Capital liquidity buffers are also there. The banking sectors are maintaining, and central bank is thoroughly monitoring them as a regulator. They monitor that. And also in terms of the dollar liquidity, the banks have adequate dollar liquidity as well. So a lot of cross-border lending happening. The Sri Lankan banks do lend to the institutions in certain countries, including India, the entities which are there. So that happens because of the cross-border lending happens because we have the dollar liquidity. So for that liquidity buffers we maintain, that is also there. In terms of local currency also, we maintain adequate capital, because we now can grow our loan books, not only like the older days. We can grow our loan books provided we have the adequate capital. And also the central bank has imposed us, Lahiru, central bank imposed us single borrower limits as well. So unlike earlier, where the banks were kind of banks were going behind some of the larger corporates to lend, and in case that larger corporate organization collapse, that will be having a kind of a ripple shocking effect on the economy. So to avoid that kind of a scenario, central bank now has imposed single borrower limits. So for certain selected large corporates, the has come down. So at that time, kind of major shocks can be in future are mitigated by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. So single borrower limits are there, capital buffers are there, liquidity buffers are also maintained. And also in terms of our credit risk management, if you can remember, some of the banks that you mentioned in USA, very recently also, in about 2-3 years back, there were some bank issue, the kind of bank collapses, failures in USA. The reason was the poor management of their credit risk. So here in Sri Lanka, most of the credit risk management is done, and it is being monitored by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. We do a lot of stress testing, different economic scenarios. We take scenario planning, and for those kind of scenario planning, we maintain our maximum risk exposures as well. So when you do that, Lahiru, the chances of we as a sector to running into a trouble is very remote. So at any given point of time, as you said, for a kind of the shocks that will be coming from, it can be coming from the local as well as from the geopolitical environment. So to mitigate that, we have adequate amount of kind of mechanisms which are in place, so that the sector is safeguarded. So when the sector is safeguarded, that means the investors, the general public, the depositors, all are safeguarded as well.
Okay, so that means the central bank has very good control of inflation at the moment, as we have seen with evidence, through controlling the money supply. that is printing of money. And also, I think by adjusting the interest rates, that is also another mechanism to control the money supply. And when it comes to currency fluctuations and currency risks, like the foreign reserves running out, like the last time we saw, and the rupee depreciating at historical levels. So central bank has a very good check on this, because I know personally the private sector banking is kind of conservative compared to maybe even European economies or even the United States economy, and they have very strong governance systems and checks and balances to ensure that they lend to people who can actually pay the money back. And as you said, the credit risk management is top notch in the private sector. Again, not to mumble on, but ask a very relevant questions. Sri Lankans living within Sri Lanka, not non-residents, not foreign investors. I feel that they are at a disadvantage because they cannot invest in other markets, because they can't fund other markets or move money from Sri Lanka to other markets or stock exchanges around the world. I mean, because if you're in Europe or if you're in any other country, you have these simple apps such as Interactive Brokers or eToro, or let's say even something like Revolut, which allows you to invest in other markets in other countries, right? So unfortunately, Sri Lankans don't have this opportunity, or am I wrong about it? Because I've heard of something called not the IIA, but OIA, Outwards Investment Accounts. Does this still exist, or is it just an elusive creature or a facility available only to few people that are given permission? Because I posed this question to Ms. Amaya from NDB Wealth Management, which is the largest private equity or private asset manager in the country. She told me that they also don't have the opportunity or the access to invest in foreign equities or foreign assets. But can an individual, for example, open an OIA and invest outside of Sri Lanka? Is it a possibility?
Nairu, for the time being, yes, there is a question mark on an individual invest here in Sri Lanka investing outside, as you said, uh, like in the advanced economies where you have a lot of platforms which are available. But for a local individual, local investor, going out and investing for the time being is a kind of a gray area. Still, it's not much an area that is being preferred by the policymakers. Still, as we all know, we are recovering from a currency crisis, and we have a kind of reserve targets to build. Still, I think the policymakers are of the view that these kind of curtailments on certain fund flows outside the country to be mitigated. So, still, it's a kind of a question mark, right?
Okay, so what I know is I use Interactive Brokers, and it allows Sri Lankans to open accounts, but it provides a special condition. Your funds can only be transferred through a OIA account, which you have to get permission from the central bank through your local bank service provider. And this remains. Has there been ever a time where Sri Lankans were able to invest outside of the country through apps like this or other services? Was there a time like this? Okay, because I'm asking about whether there was this possibility in the past, because then we can expect it to return again one day when the economy stabilizes and becomes normal.
There was no such, in my experience, Lahiru, there was no such individual capacity
Mhm.
availability for individuals to invest outside Sri Lanka through apps and other platforms. But on the other side, if you are a Sri Lankan organization which is willing to invest in a kind of project outside, the banks have given the kind of support. Still, it's happening, as I told you. We do a lot of cross-border lending, so those kind of activities happen. But individual capacity for stock markets and investment purpose for a local residents here, we have not come across
such a scenario. Okay, because I know that you can move funds from Sri Lanka if you want to, for example, start a business in Dubai or
Yes.
in another country. That is still allowed. That is something, as long as I think you bring back the money to the country. Is
Yes.
that a condition that people
Yes.
still have to follow?
Yes, still the people have to follow, and strict central bank regulation is there. You will be have to get the clearance from the relevant authorities. So that's there. You can do investments outside, but individual capacity, you have that kind of there is an issue.
Okay, so to the viewers, especially Sri Lankan residents living in Sri Lanka, unfortunately for the moment, OIA facility is not an option for you to consider. So we have to wait patiently and see whether Sri Lankans will be given access or permission to access foreign equity or bond markets or other markets. But how are Sri Lankans then investing in things like Bitcoin? I'm not an advocate of Bitcoin at all. I don't believe in it. I think it's a scam. But I've heard Sri Lankans talking about investing in Bitcoin and so these different types of assets. How are they doing it? Is it legal? What is the status of recognizing of not using Bitcoin, for example, cryptocurrency is the generic word for this. What's the status of cryptocurrency in the country?
So, Lahru, for this, bitcoins and crypto are again, you in Sri Lanka, there is no proper regulation, no guidance. No, actually, no proper regulation, no proper guideline for that. And the CBSL itself, the central bank itself, has not come across a set of guidelines. So, from the banker perspective, from as a banker, uh, we do not facilitate the digital currency, crypto, and such investments. So on that end, Lahiru, we have to say that it's a kind of it's outside the banking scope, but the individuals invest that in their own capacity through different platforms. So from a banker perspective, what I can say is that we are not facilitating those investments.
Then how are even certain like high profile individuals, even like I don't want to name people, uh, claim that they have Bitcoin or cryptocurrency investments outside of the country? How is it possible like that these people move money through, I think, formal channels? I don't know how it happens. If you can enlighten us.
That's yes, Lairu. Now I have to answer that question, keeping my what do you call within my limitations.
Of course.
So, typically they do it informally, and there are informal. There are platforms which are there. They use that. So, just to sum up your what do you call question from a banking angle, uh, we have to say that it is out of our scope, and it's that they do it from a kind of a different perspective.
Okay, so at the moment, it is not an illegal form of currency, it's just not regulated. Am I correct?
It's not illegal, but as you said, it is not regulated. From the regulation angle, it's not regulated. Here, we don't have any regulation into that. So, therefore,
Basically, it's not
yes, it's not
accepted
illegal, but it's not
in
regulated.
it's not accepted in the formal financial sector as a valid currency or an
It's not a
investment.
legal. It's not a legal. Yes, it's not a legal tender, as well as it's not regulated. And also, uh, uh, within Sri Lanka, what I have seen is more than the people who are transacting or who are investing in Bitcoin. What we have seen is there are Bitcoin courses, Bitcoin what do you call digital currency education programs are there. So the point is that here in Sri Lanka, digital currency is not regulated, and as the very recent issue with regard to the kind of sudden collapse of the value of the Bitcoin stemming from the Donald Trump's
Yes.
truth
And
post,
yeah.
those kind of factors, we have seen many people who don't have idea, who don't have the basic ABC of investment, has lost massive amount of volumes of money.
Yeah.
So from a banking angle, what I can give is that since it is not regulated here, better you take your own risk and do those investments if you like to do.
Yeah, it's fascinating how people manage to get themselves into trouble by investing in get rich quick schemes, and how they find the ingenuity to, I don't know, even transfer funds uh, to such assets, so like quasi assets. Right. So, okay. I mean, then as a banker to investors outside of Sri Lanka, what else do you like to add? Uh, Also, like it should be an honest overview of the country. I know you will be honest, and if you can let us know why should someone again consider Sri Lanka from an investor's point of view.
So different investors will have different kind of investment objectives. So if you are an individual investor for a person from Sri Lankan diaspora who is living outside, I think definitely you will have an emotional contact. Yes, there is a financial requirement, but there will be an emotional contact for you to invest in this country. One thing, by investing here, you are helping out the country to come out from its worst economic crisis that had happened to the country. So it's an emotional part, number one. Number two, the country is steadily, gradually coming out of the crisis. If you take all the indicators of the economics, the basic fundamentals of economics, inflation, interest rate, foreign exchange rate, the budget deficit, the primary account deficit, if you take the balance of payment. So all these aspects, there is positive news. So what else we expect? And on the other side, if you take Sri Lanka itself offers so much of potential with regard to the growth, because now the economic stabilization period is over in terms of growth. So we all know Sri Lanka is having very good relationships with all major economic powers. Take it USA, take it Europe, China, India. We are friends with all, no enemies. So geopolitical risk in terms of major crisis, yes, for a certain degree, Sri Lanka is managed. Emotional aspect, economic indicators, as well as the geopolitical risk is another area where a person can invest. And the other part is that opportunities which are coming up in tourism sector, opportunities which are coming up in BPO, business process outsourcing, those kind of sectors, or opportunities which are coming up in Sri Lanka in terms of agriculture. On those kind of sectors, you can do some smart investments, and you can earn some good amount of money. Yes, definitely Sri Lanka will have its own risk, because we have seen when it comes to, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years of stabilization, again there can be some amount of risk. But hopefully we can't predict the, say, entire 10 to 15 years of future, but say the people and the policymakers, all the sides, right? Whatever the political party or political angle, policymakers have also, we see from what they speak, they have learned their lessons. So so in that angle also, this is a time that you can invest here in Sri Lanka. And as you say, the banking sector is always there. to help our investors, because it's one of the most vibrant banking sectors which is there. And the banking sector itself is getting modernized. A lot of digital applications are coming in. Mobile apps are there. So there is room for improvement, but the banking sector itself is there. And if you have gone through the government's budget, in the recent budget, so a lot of digital improvements the government is planning for a $30 billion, $15 billion digital economy, and planning for a kind of a large amount of export income. So those areas are addressed. So I would say, honestly, this is a time period for you to consider Sri Lanka as an investment destination. Part of your funds to be rooted to Sri Lanka as well.
This is a question relevant for deep pocket investors. Do you facilitate BI project approval like processes? Is there any facilitation in that side?
Yes, yes, Lahiru. In NDB, we have a business banking department which is supporting small and medium enterprises. So we have specially dedicated relationship managers who will be supporting setting up not the kind of secretarial work as the things like that, but say facilitating opening up accounts. Special relationship managers are there for SME type of investments. Right now also we are working with a lot of diaspora investors who are coming and putting up plants, apparel factory plants in north and east. Some people who are starting tourism projects here, smart agriculture projects, people who are coming in, and also kind of large scale investors, as you said, big ticket investors. We have the project financing department, specific project financing department. They have special experience, legacy of experience in wind power, solar power, ground mounted, roof mounted. They have experience in that. NDB being Sri Lanka's major renewable energy financier, about more than 30% of Sri Lanka's renewable energy funded by NDB, we can proudly say. So we have experienced team in project financing department, specific project financing department who will facilitate all funding through this large scale BUI projects, be it apparel factory, be it, let's say, a large scale maybe a IT company, and sometimes maybe it's a rooftop or a ground mounted solar project or wind power project. Syndication loans, sometimes you need syndication loans, sometimes large amount of funds, not only one bank, several banks will fund. So that's also there. And also from a kind of a equity investment perspective, or maybe investment advisory purpose, you have NDB Investment Bank. It's a kind of a total banking group. So if you want to invest in Sri Lanka, be it through SME scale or maybe through project financing landscape, we are there to help you out. Definitely that we have the necessary mechanisms within us.
Okay, right. Okay then. So any final thoughts that you like to share? Maybe like something very quick for our viewers.
Final thoughts, Lairu. Yes, Sri Lanka had its own issues, but see, after independence, 76 years, there were improvements in the country during that 76 years. And at the time of we obtained our independence, we had only one university. Now we have more than large amount of universities are there. Everybody can be proud of the education system, the healthcare system. People can be proud of. And yes, there were areas which has to be improved. I think the government, the policymakers, all parties, as well as our people have learned the lesson. And we have very vibrant banking sector. And we have a kind of the location itself. And Sri Lanka is only very few countries who has a free trade agreement with India. So that's an area where Sri Lanka has a definite advantage, which many investors who are coming in and talk to us, that's there. And also the port city. From the recent government budget also, a lot of improvements, a lot of, I would say, rationalization of the concessions those are there. So the focus is there from the policymakers, from the governments, from the authorities, as well as the private sector. So I sincerely feel that this is a time that people have to look Sri Lanka as an investment destination. And also, yes, it will have its own issues, but surely you can consider this as a destination where you can invest.
Of course. So remember, you have to take your own decisions by doing your own research and make sure that you comply and do your due diligence before you make any investment decision. All right. So with that said, thank you very much, Mr. Nilendra Vitanage, for joining us today and sharing your insights and into the banking sector and also into possible investment schemes for foreigners, non-resident Sri Lankans, and also Sri Lankans. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure, Lionel. Thank you very much for having me, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.